it's practical. Hello, I'm Portia with PracticalPorche Crafts, and today I'll be going over the easy way to make a drop stitch shawl. And for those who are unfamiliar with the drop stitch, basically what you're doing is pulling through loops to, you're wrapping twice when you're knitting, and then as you knit the next row, you'll see that you have those two loops on there. And what you're going to do is you're going to basically drop that back loop. So you just wrap once, wrap twice, pull it through, and then pull both of those off. And it makes a very loose and drapey, very light shawl, and that's what I love about it. But wrapping it just seems to be excessive when you could just use a bigger needle. So I am playing around with the size because I wasn't sure how drapey I want, and this one was ice cream yarn. Both of these are ice cream. This one is using a size 8mm, so it's still loose and very light and drapey, but it's a little bit tighter than this one, which is also Lion brand, but the ice cream with just scraps from other hats and scarves that I've been making. The 10mm needle is a lot drapier, and it's still the same effect as the drop stitch, but you're just knitting. So we're going to go over how to make one of these today, and I'm just using straight needles right now because it's just easy. But if you're making this shawl, you're going to want to use cable needle, because it will grow and grow and grow, and it will definitely extend past what you can hold on one of these needles. So to begin, we can just cast on 3 stitches, and I like to do the long tail cast on, so I'm going to have a loop around my pointer finger and a loop around my thumb, but I'll get into that. First, we can make a slip stitch, and you can make that any way you like. I always prefer to basically make, okay, it's hard when you try to slow it down, so make a loop, and you're just pulling the working yarn through that loop, and put that on your needle. Then for the long tail cast on, you're going to want your tail end around your thumb, and you're going to want your working yarn around your pointer finger. And all you do for the long tail cast on is go underneath the tail end of your thumb, and then underneath the pointer finger working yarn end, and you pull that through, and then just tighten that down, and again go under the loop. You're basically making a figure 8, and then under the pointer and pulling that through. Now that you have 3 loops on your hook, you're going to want to, I personally like to slip the first stitch purlwise, and normally I would tie a knot right here to secure that. Actually, I'll just go ahead and do that right now. And you're going to slip this purlwise, and that's going to make that nice straight edge. And then what you're going to do is the second to last stitch of every row until you get 7 stitches on your needle, you're going to knit front to back. So you're going to basically knit as normal, and do not take that loop off the left. Instead of taking it off, just swerve back around to the back loop and knit that same loop. So you're getting a 2 for here. Then you can pull it off the left needle. And then knit the last loop. Again, slip purlwise on the first stitch of every row. And then you're going to knit to the last 2 stitches. And then you're going to knit front and then swing around and knit the back of that same stitch. Pop that off and then knit the last stitch. Then there were 5. Okay, that's too dim. That's a bit better. I'm sorry, I have a light and I'm still trying to play around with it because it is whitewashing everything. Okay, so slip the first one. Okay, I think that might be too dim. I can't win here. Then you're going to knit. I wonder if it's auto-focusing on that. There. Okay. Knit, and then we're going to front and back. And then knit. Then there were 6. Alright, here we go. Knit to the last 2 after you slip that first, and then you're going to knit front and back. Now we're going to knit from this row on. You're going to knit the first 5, then on the 6th stitch you're going to knit front and back. And knit to the end of the row. Doesn't look like much right now, but it's coming along. And so now you're going to, every row you're knitting the first 5, knitting front to back on the 6th stitch, and then knitting the rest of the row. Now I'm going to continue knitting, but I'm going to fast forward through, so I'm getting back to my audiobook while working on this.
Planetarium. Wow, she says. There's no excitement in her voice.
Okay, now that we've gotten a few rows, of course you're going to go a lot more rows than this, but I'll show you easy bind off. You can do the normal bind off of knitting and then pulling the first loop over the loop like that. Again, you're just pulling that loop over. Oopsies. And again, you're not increasing on the cast off row. So you're just knitting, you're still slipping the first stitch, but you're just knitting every stitch. The other bind off is a little bit more, it has more give than this, and it's basically knitting, and now that you have 2 loops on your hook, you're going to put your needle under, and then you're going to pull a loop up under both, and that will make a much looser bind off. Sorry. Still haven't gotten used to looking through this camera. It's kind of weird. And that is, you can see that has a lot more bounce and stretch. So you can see that it looks a lot more like the edge as well. So you can use this, the normal cast off, but I think going under the 2 this way is much easier. So again, you're just sliding your loop back onto the left just to give you leverage, and you're pulling a loop up between the 2, or yeah, you're just knitting the 2 together basically. So that is the bind off that I would definitely recommend. And you can do this with anything. You can make scarves or whatever, just using a bigger needle. And you can see where that, you see kind of a V where you're knitting the first 5. You can see it a little bit better with this one. And that is all that I have to show for you today. Like I said, you can use this with anything that you're making garter stitch, whether it be shawls or scarves or what have you. Just using a different size needle can make a world of difference. So feel free to tag me on social media if you make any of these. I would love to see what you come up with. Thank you. Oh, it's practical.